topic. So meditation is our topic. And the art of meditation is a term coined by Adyashanti. This came to me through a class that I just took online with Adyashanti, entitled The Art of Meditation. So he calls it an art because it's not necessarily a linear, consistent experience that we have when we're meditating. And there's not really a rule book, even though we have plenty of techniques that we've all been taught and that others have been taught through the centuries. There are techniques, but those are just starting points. And if each of those techniques just worked like that, we'd all be in complete bliss all the time. So obviously, there's something to this that just isn't easy. And Adyashanti says, a lot of times it's a real struggle. You hear people say, oh, I wish I could meditate, but I'm just too restless. I can't sit still. Or my mind is racing. I just can't control my mind. And, it's just hopeless. And, the major point he makes is you can't control your mind. It's impossible. Give it up. You're starting off on the wrong foot if you think you're going to control your mind. So, so he teaches us how to learn to deal with that very, very notion. So his goal as he teaches meditation is to have us recognize that we need to do it with ease. There needs to be rest and comfort and ease in our practice. And we need to get out of that habitual mind pattern that is telling us this is hard. It's hard to do. To understand we need not struggle. And so he has us go through a number of exercises to help us experience that. So I have a little joke, sort of a joke. I'll read it. A student went to his meditation teacher and said, "My meditation is horrible. I feel so distracted. My legs ache. I'm constantly falling asleep. It's just horrible." "It will pass," the teacher said matter-of-factly. A week later, the student came back to his teacher. "My meditation is wonderful. I feel so aware, so peaceful, so alive. It's just wonderful." "It will pass." And isn't that the truth? And that's the other aspect of the art. It's different every time. You just never know what to expect. You never know, if it's wonderful or horrible. And really, who is the person determining if it's wonderful or horrible? That, again, is just our thinking mind. So, Adyashanti has 3 key points that I pulled out from his teachings. One is there is a natural state of stillness and quiet that is already present. It's already part of our experience. It's always there. It's there right now. We're just not aware of it most of the time. But there's nothing we have to create or fix. It's there. It's a natural state of stillness. 2, we can learn how to work with the narrator in our mind. That's that voice in our head that's constantly chattering about whatever. Sometimes, it's very entertaining sometimes if you can sit and where did that come from? Who's thinking that? So we can learn how to work with that narrator without trying to control it or suppress it. He gave an example. If you put duct tape over your mouth to try to stop talking, it only works as long as the duct tape is there. But as soon as it's gone, the talking will begin again. So we may have the ability to suppress that narrator for a few moments in our meditation, but it's not going to last. So we need to learn how to work with it without trying to suppress or control. And third, the purpose of our meditation is to recognize the ultimate ground of being and bring our meditation into daily life. You know, it's fine and dandy if we're all peaceful sitting on the cushion, but we all have to get up and go out and work and interact with people. And, you know, you can't say, oh, time out, I'm going to go sit for a minute. Can't do that. You know, we need to learn how to bring it into our daily life. And so through his teachings, this is his goal, that we all live our life with more ease, that we all come in contact with that stillness and our true nature, and not try to get rid of our bodies, our mind, our form, you know, our thoughts. We're not going to try to get rid of them, but if we experience all of life coming from that space of, or that place of spaciousness, open-heartedness, ease, then life becomes more loving and kind and fruitful. So those are the main points. Now, there was another aspect of what he talked about that I found really interesting. He uses the word content and context, words content and context. So content is what our thinking mind is always doing. You know, thoughts about, you know, and we sang our thoughts or prayers. We did the meditation about this thought does not mean anything, or it's meaningless. It can be said in different ways. You know, our life is just full of thought, thinking. We pride ourselves in our thinking. We like to analyze and solve and figure things out and be smart and like, whoa, look what I can do with my brain. Having all of those skills is great, but if we define who we are based on that, then we're constantly in struggle, because you know everything changes. You know, you're at the top of your game at your job, and then the next thing you know, this new person's coming in, ready to replace you. Or your boss comes in and says, I don't want it that way, I want it this way. So things are always changing, and we're all, you know, there's the potential there, as we all know, to be in struggle and self-doubt and separation throughout our lives. So content is all the thinking, the judging, the doing, you know, it's all about form. The context, however, is that vast, expansive space, you know, existence, state of being. He says our content, the way we live our life focused on content, is so narrow and limiting. If we only realized what happens when you expand and live from the space. Content's still there, but there's so much more in life that we can experience. And meditation is a way to get there and understand that and touch that, touch, sorry, I can't really call it place, but, you know, touch the context. You know, so sometimes you can think of the context as the space in the room. You know, it's not defined. You know, there are walls that define I'm a wall, but space is defineless. You know, it's vast, it's expansive. And when we are in that space, aware of that space, then we're not contracted and attached and caught up in all the thinking or the feelings that we have, or the pain, or, you know, I mean, as we sit in meditation, we know There are thoughts, there's feelings, there's sensations, there's hearing things, there's visualizing things. All of these things are going on because our brain is still active, we're still in a body. It's all going on, but we can become the witness to that, the observer of that. We can simply sit and notice it. Notice it without any judgment, without any reactivity. It just is. You know, not even noticing it with, oh, isn't that interesting? Because that's a temptation too when we're meditating. And I can remember sitting with Barbara Brodsky over at Deep Spring, and you know, after the meditation's over, you know, we're invited to tell about our experience. And, you know, people are often wanting to tell their story. Here's what I saw when I was meditating. And Barbara just says, and what did you do? Well, and then I went on and I, you know, okay. And then if you say, I just noted it, you know, that's the key. You're just noting it. You know, it's not like, whoa, I saw some really wonderful things. I had this vision, you know, or I had this message come through. Oh, did you note it? Just note it. So the magical thing happens when you do spend a good deal of time in meditation. You do carry that spaciousness into real life. I can remember coming back from a retreat, and at this time my kids were kind of young, you know, 10 and 13, and you know, if you're a parent, most of us have been or are, it can be a challenge. You know, there's a lot of demands, a lot of noise, a lot of activity, and a tendency for a lot of judgment and contraction, like, oh, I've got to control not only me, but I got to control them. And I came back from this retreat, and I was so spacious that I could talk, and I could react, and I could, you know, do the things one needs to do in family life, but I wasn't all caught up in it. It wasn't a story, I wasn't reactive. And it's so nice to be able to be in that place. Past tense, because I'm not always there anymore. So that's part of why I wanted to sign up for this class. And, you know, I really notice that sometimes I get narrow and contracted more often than I wish. And it's time to start getting serious about about meditating again, so that I can have ease in my life. So it's a journey for all of us. So the content, the time, and I just love that notion that, you know, the content is so narrow and there's more to life, and you know, that's appealing. Is that appealing to you? You know, like I could have more joy, more peace, more fun, everything. You know, and then you know, a side effect might be that we would wake up and be enlightened. And just kind of stay there, but you know, Adyashanti is thought to be enlightened. You know, he's a being who has been deeply meditating for many years and teaching, and you know, he is a peaceful presence. And he has said, people always ask me, you know, do you ever get caught? And he goes, yeah, I get caught sometimes, but it's only for a moment, and then I remember. And I'm back, you know. And he says, you know, a lot of times people think if you're enlightened, you're going to disappear, or you're just going to, like, sit at home and wear white robes, or, you know, what have you. But, you know, really to be enlightened is to be in the world at ease, in peace. It's a shift of perception. It's a non-attachment to what's going on, and yet being fully functional. So, anybody want to do that? Fully functional at ease? All right, so the exercises, there are 3 different exercises. The first one is stop, ground yourself, use your breath to ground yourself, You stop and breathe in. And be consciously present with that feeling. What do you feel in your body when you stop and breathe? Even if it's for a moment, there's peace, there's stillness. So he says, do this 20 times a day. Well, I figured out maybe every half hour would, be about that, or maybe more than that, I don't know. So I have this great watch that has the vibrator on it, and I set it for 30 minutes. And every 30 minutes, I feel a little vibration, no matter where I am. And when I first started doing this, I was really surprised, first of all, how often 30 minutes goes by, or how like, whoa, it's again already. But how tense I was. And then sometimes I'd be annoyed, like, oh, I don't have time for that. And, there's a deadline, you got this report you got to get done in the next 20 minutes, and somebody's coming in, and you know how our life is. And we do get tense without even realizing it. We're just kind of on that doing track, gonna do today. So anyway, this has been wonderful, and I periodically turn it on to make it buzz every 30 minutes. And sometimes like through the day I notice, okay, I'm contracted, like, oh, okay, all right, take a stop and breathe, and it feels good. And then I'm back on it, back on the doing. But then sometimes as the day goes by, I notice that there's not the resistance. Like, time to stop and breathe, be conscious. It's a really simple thing to do, and it is very insightful. You can start to see, wow, didn't know I was so tight, didn't know I was rushing so much, didn't know I was so anxious right now. Because we get those anxiety states and tense states become so habitual that we think that's what it's supposed to be. We think that's normal. And it's a lot easier when you can relax. So stop, ground yourself, be consciously present, feel it in your body. Number 2, dwelling in the sense of I am, or just I. So when we say I or I am, without any more words, no definitions, it's just I am. I am. And you do that throughout the day, every 30 minutes or so, or just whenever, He said even if you're in a conversation with somebody, you can take a moment in your mind and go, I am. So often, we're trying to be something, I am the expert here on this topic that we're talking about now, and, can't you see how expert I am? Or I am responsible for this thing that's happening, or I am miserable right now because I'm stuck in traffic and I'm late, or, whatever. So, you can be none of that. Those are all definitions that just add to the stress of life. Just, I am. I am. And it's just another little touchstone for, being. A touchstone for being. Okay? Feel the pause after the I am. Okay. The third exercise is, I don't know. That's a very freeing statement. I don't know. Throughout the day, anytime you find yourself in judgment, having a position about something, about yourself, about that one, about the thing that's going on, anytime there's a judgment, a thought, a struggle, a feeling like you're supposed to know, I don't know. So you always stop, ground. Thank goodness breathing is so easy, For most of us. Granted, there are some people who have difficulty breathing, so not to make light of that, but you know, for the most of us, just stopping and taking a deep breath. It's right there all the time. We can't not do it. Right there, breathe, stop, pause. So I suggest you don't try to do all three. I think it's really good to start with number one, as he demonstrated in the teachings. Stop, ground yourself, and just be conscious. Conscious of how you feel. And it really only takes a minute. So I recommend that you try that. So now I have a little quiz question. What do yoga meditation and an apple peeler have in common? You must have been in the space of that ease and it just came, right? Right, we get to the core. So we're trying, we're not trying. We are allowing, you know, that's another point. When we're meditating, it's not, we got to do it, we got to try something, we got to make something happen. We are setting the stage to allow for the opening to come. So many of us have different paths, different practices, different kinds of meditation we like to do, things that work for us. Meditation can be for health benefits, it can be just to be more mindful. You know, there's lots of different ways. He talks about, what do you call that? When you say a mantra. When you say a mantra over and over again. He says, that's good for the beginning. You know, if you want to just sit down and get yourself sort of settled, start with your breathing or, you know, noting things, or you can use a mantra, but he says if you only do mantra meditation, it's not that, he doesn't believe it's that useful. It's not where he's trying to point, in the direction he's trying to point us in. So, you know, maybe people have found that. You know, it can bring about a state of peace for the moment, but it's sort of like the tape over the mouth. It only lasts as long as you're doing it. To some extent. I mean, I believe, you know, we did so many different things today that was meditative. And it does have an effect that carries through. But as far as having that insight about, you know, the vastness of the context that we live in, you know, he suggests what he's pointing us towards. So anyway, so I think I'll stop there and give you all a chance for an open mic. If you have any thoughts about meditation, your practice,